this together. Good morning. Oh, let's do the sound check. 1, 2, 3, 4. Have you got some good sound? Let's try this one. One, two, three, four. Thanks. Melanie, would you check with Avi what's happening in terms of just go check in with Avi. I'm pausing till he gives me some information. Yay, thank you. Good morning. You apparently sprang forward. Strange thing. So we have our dilemma solved. We have the volunteers to help with the children's program this week. If you are of a mind to be of assistance in that next week, we're in the process of hiring a new teacher, and right now Tia, one of our members, is back there volunteering, and we need at least 2 parents each Sunday in order to keep the kids program going. In the future also, we need 1 parent to volunteer, parent or adult from the community to support the teacher. So if you might like to do that next week, please contact Avi. Good. Okay, so welcome. I've been here a lot in the last few days. I was here teaching a day-long retreat yesterday called Remembering Death. It was very well attended, 43 people. And I did what we're about to do now, the refuge chants. And one of the people who was there, who's elderly and sick, took a noisy breath and fell unconscious in his chair right at the beginning. And then I called 911 and the paramedics came and he left and he's fine. It turns out he was dehydrated. But as he left, we were sitting on the front cushions out there, the couch. And he looked at me and smiled and said, "Well, I guess I really did a great setup for your workshop today, didn't I?" And it was true, because we then spent an hour passing the microphone and talking about, and while it was happening and while the paramedics were here, I was suggesting to people, watch what's happening, notice what's happening inside, because this is a choice moment to see what our reactivities are and how we respond. So, remembering how utterly fragile we are. So, who's new? I see some new people. Welcome. I hope this is a very important morning for you. So we chant these refuges. I take refuge in being awake, in the Buddha, in the Dharma, in what we experience and notice when we're actually present, the way things actually are, and in the community of practice, the community of all life, and also in those who have practiced before us and actually realized what this is about. Why don't we do your announcement right now while we have everybody here? This is Kirsten, our volunteer coordinator and musician and much more.
Hi. I announced a couple weeks ago that the band that I play with is doing a benefit show for my teacher. Her name's Kathy Marchant. She is a teacher of nonviolent communication, worked directly with the founder, Marshall Rosenberg, for years. She's phenomenal. And I have little flyers about the show because I know some of us need a takeaway to remember. It's on Friday, March 22nd, 7 to 9. It's a free show, but if you want to contribute, that would be awesome. Showing up is great. Also, a few community members have donated art that they're going to have on sale, Marla and Michael both. So it's going to be a fun event. We play every month, but this is a special one, so we would love to have you there. Thanks so much.
Kathy is very ill. Kathy, I could say Kathy is my primary, most significant nonviolent communication teacher. I worked with her for about 18 months and changed my life. So we can help her out. Plus, hear Kirsten play music and sing. That's quite something. In fact, maybe we'll have you do a solo on the refuges. Okay. I take refuge in the Buddha, the one who shows me the way in this life. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya. refuge in the Dharma, the way of understanding and love. Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya. I take refuge in the Sangha, the community of mindful harmony. Namo Sanghaya, Namo Sanghaya, Namo Sanghaya. Once more, I take refuge in the Buddha, the one who shows me the way in this life. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya. I take refuge in the Dharma, the way of understanding and love. Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya. I take refuge in the Sangha, the community of mindful harmony. Namo Sanghaya, Namo Sanghaya, Namo Sanghaya. One of the main threads of the Buddha's teachings is that of impermanence. Everything that has a beginning has an ending. And so here with this stringed instrument, we can notice it's so apparent, but hard to really notice. There's nothing, sound, and then notice how the sound doesn't exist at all, and then suddenly it's full-blown, it's complete in its amplitude. That was, of course, one of the themes that we came back to again and again yesterday. Everything which has a beginning has an ending. And there are no exceptions. That's not only what makes life interesting or makes life possible, but it's also that which makes life really challenging. So, such good fortune we have to be here together, to have this warm room. Probably had enough breakfast, well enough to walk. Speaking of which, tomorrow I get to pick up the construction drawings for the ramp. And then it gets to the engineer, and then to the contractor and to the city this week for permits. It's unfolding. The building will be accessible sometime in the next several months. So we sit down, as people have done now for thousands of years. We use the mystery of awareness and observe that there's a body sitting here. It's alive. Where are the most predominant sensations in that which you take to be your body right now? Perhaps the hands, perhaps the face. Maybe it's where the pressure of the body against the cushion or the chair is the strongest. Maybe there's somewhere in the body where there's a little bit of pleasure or some pain. Most certainly we know that because you're sitting up, there is a heartbeat and there is breathing. And one of the foundational practices, mindfulness of breathing in and breathing out, it's just that simple. Be aware of the body's sensations as the body breathes in and breathes out naturally. This intention of awareness of breathing potentiates knowing when the mind is wandering. And then when awareness, mindfulness, notices that wandering, it's quite possible then to come back to the breath. No rush, no violence, no jerkiness. Just a kind of gentle resting in the present moment to the best of your ability. we practice with curiosity. How is it to sit here and breathe in and out consciously? Is it possible to just let the body breathe and observe it without interfering, or do you discover there's some tendency to control the breath? If you discover control and tension, simply switch your object of observation to be the life in your hands, perhaps, or maybe to sounds. Notice how they come into being and then disappear. At the very beginning, we tend to notice there is a breath. Breathing is happening. And there's the effort of a sort to target the breath, to bring awareness into the sensations. And then there's the effort to sustain that presence with the sensations. And gradually we become more and more intimate with the present moment, and in this case with the breath. And we notice that there's sometimes a gap between breathing out and breathing in. The body's not using much oxygen for muscles, so the breathing can get less intense, less frequent. And then sometimes we notice during the gap, there's an apparent absence of movement, sensation. And then there's the beginning, a certain impulse or a certain feeling of wanting. And then breathing in begins. Like those guitar sounds, it comes out of nowhere. It just starts. And then it comes to fullness. It breathes into fullness, and then there's a certain deceleration to zero, and then there's a breathing out. Then the whole of the chest and abdomen are involved in collapsing and contracting. And then it vanishes. Another example of anicca, not permanent. Meditation is an art that we practice over time. And we learn how to balance out this human mind and body. We learn when more effort is necessary and when more ease is necessary. We learn how to be more loving, more capable of being with and awake to everything that arises in us. We learn how to bear that which previously was unbearable. We learn how to delight in and experience pleasure happiness, generosity, compassion. How interesting it is that these beautiful outcomes arise from sitting here and cultivating mindfulness of breathing in and breathing out. We learn that as it grows, mindfulness shines on everything, just like the sun. Breathing in, breathing out. You may be experiencing great ease. The mind might be absent of craving, desire, or disliking, aversion. It might be crisply and calmly alert, easily concentrated. You may be resting in a sea of confidence, faith, surety. Or the opposites of these could be flourishing right now. There could be really wanting something, desire, grasping, or aversion, disliking, anger, hatred. Or the mind could be really restless and agitated, and worrying, jumping from one object to the next. Or there could be sleepy dullness, sloth and torpor. Or there could be doubt. Why am I doing this? Can I do this? Or there could be emotional storms. For the purpose of waking up, it doesn't matter which of these are happening. Our task is to simply become kindly, mercifully aware of what the inner weather is. And in this kindness, in this compassion and loving, the truth shines out at us. The refuge in the Buddha is refuge in that which is aware, awake, conscious. And this totally receptive awakeness is the field in which all experience occurs. And so time and again we come back to this little piece of the living earth, which is your body. It breathes in and then it breathes out. And please now, let's take a moment to notice your whole body as it sits here. It's one great mass of life. Bring awareness into the eyes, the location of the eyes. And observe the intention to allow the eyes to open, and then let them open. Open and mindful of seeing. Seeing. And take a moment now, please, to notice the general state of mind. Is the experience of mind and body at this point saner, more relaxed, more comfortable than when you walked in? Please raise your hand if that's true. Right? Take a moment to look around. What did we do here that creates such a huge change? Pretty much nothing. When we stop doing, the system moves to normalization of function. Blood pressure normalizes, salinity normalizes. They've measured now dozens and dozens of homeostatic systems in the body. They all move toward normal. People who have diabetes have to be a little attentive to their blood sugar when they start meditating significantly, because their blood sugar will be normalizing some. It's not like it cures everything, but the body naturally wants to come to stability, and the same is true for the mind. It so longs to heal. You know, when you fall and you scrape yourself, or you cut yourself with a knife or something, we don't have much to do with it. We keep it clean and it heals. And the same is true for the human mind and heart, and it wants to heal. So amazing. So I'm going to go play a little music with the kids, and Jim's going to do some movement, and then when I come back, Avi will do, or maybe before I get back, Avi will do some announcements, and then I'm going to reflect with you today upon what's called the second foundation of mindfulness, the phenomenon of Vedana, of that every sense experience has a valence. It's either pleasant, unpleasant, or indeterminate or neutral. And this can seem kind of arcane, and why would I pay attention to that? But it's these pulls and pushes that drive us through our lives. They're the great motivators. And so learning how to work with them intentionally, just as we can pay attention to breathing, we can pay attention to the push and pull that come with each sensory experience, and then we can make choices. This one looks pleasant, but I think it's going to really be a mess. Should I? No, I'm not going to. We can steer our course. So, Mr. Dalton, sir, would you take the helm?
Thank you. Whoops. Just engaged. Yes, hello to those joining us on the internet. You can stand up now, if you wish. So we move into a easy rhythm of pouring our energy into one leg and paying attention to the sensations in that leg, and then pouring into the other leg, with the intention, as Robert was saying, of healing the body. It's not going to cure everything, but healing rides on the breath of life. So we breathe in and release, and breathe in and release, and we can feel the liquid, fluid aspects of the breath, of the body, linking the movement to the breath. And imagining water and fluidity has a tendency to soften the mind and soften the body. It's hard to hold the notion of fluid pouring and be uptight. It doesn't work. So let's try to be uptight. Let's raise our hands and hold them out. And then Robert's going to be talking about Vedana. At one point, this is pleasant because we're stretching muscles that have been still. And then there's other points where it's not so pleasant. Especially if we try to hold our arms out or try to reach. When that subtle grasping of the ego gets in there, I'm going to show everybody how strong I am. Or I'm going to show myself that I can endure this. There's a little bit of tension building. If we raise our hands upward, blood drains out of the arms and hands, and there's a little sensation of unpleasant. Where's the flow of energy that I need to sustain this position? And then pressing out and down, we come back to a restful stance. And the valence of that gesture is pleasant. And the entire routine that we do, the Shibashi routine, is built on this whole principle. Sinking and rising, there's a pleasure in having activity, and then when it gets to be unpleasant, we release it. We don't really wait for the unpleasant. We just change it just before. So we find a pleasant rise and a pleasant release. And the body that's been trying to do so many things since we got up this morning, getting ready to leave, getting breakfast prepared, getting dishes cleaned, getting the car, in my case, getting the frost off the window. There was no frost on the back window or the side window, just the front window that I needed to see out of. Now, what's with this? What's with this? I don't understand this. So we rise and open, and suddenly there's a different set of pleasuring sensations in the chest because there's more oxygen available. And maybe those little muscles that support our tension in the shoulders get a little release. Now, some of us may be injured from various activities, and maybe none of this is pleasant. But we observe, where's the pleasant sensation? Where's the pleasant breath? Where's the unpleasant? Where's the neutral? We spend our day unconsciously reacting to that deciding factor of, this is pleasant, I'm going to keep doing this. Let's reach overhead and open to the sides. We try to grasp the pleasant stuff and hold it, and it doesn't work. And Shibashi teaches us, if you go with the flow and don't try to hold on to the pleasant, maybe something pleasant will happen next. Or maybe something neutral that can be turned into something pleasant. Release down, cross the wrists. As we just stay here for a second, and as you cross the wrists, feel your shoulder blades. Open your arms, and then cross the wrists and feel the shoulder blades. They haven't been in that position for a while. That feels pleasant to me. I hope it does for you. Because a lot of the tension that builds up unconsciously during the day is right across the shoulder blades and up into the shoulders and into the neck. So we just stretch across and bring relief. It's a healing. Turn to the side, push and pull. The hips rotate around a central axis in an easy way. We're not struggling to do anything. We're just letting the flow carry us. That's a healing gesture. And we're joined with all the people in the room doing the same gesture. We're all contributing to this group healing. The mind has a reaction to that. Is that pleasant? To be participating in a group that's healing. How does that feel? And each of these gestures is impermanent. It begins rising in this case, and then releasing. Rising on the other side, and releasing. The body's teaching us about impermanence. If we held on to any of these positions for a long period of time, they'd become unpleasant. So we cultivate patterns that are harmless to the body. In fact, they're healing to the body. Turning, releasing, gently stretching, releasing. And each of us has this influence on the group energy. And it's a sustained healing influence. We're healing one another. That's why we came here. So how does it feel in the mind to notice a purpose and then watch the purpose being carried out? And then out of that flows sympathetic joy. Look at all the people wiping out the heartache. Releasing the shoulders, releasing the elbows, releasing the wrists. Gently rotating the hips. Alive and aware. Simplicity heals the body and the mind. Reaching out, we'll splash in the sea. Opening the arms, there's a bigger feeling of agency. There's more oxygen flowing, more healing. Riding the waves. Opening the arms, turning the wrists, gentle, round movements soothe the body. Returning to the center, pausing for a second, stepping out and gathering or splashing again. We only gather to splash. It's all connected. How does that work? Riding the waves. Opening the arms. Okay, coming back to the center, intending to make a fist, intending to sink, and then agency. Having a purpose and then fulfilling it. Spreading the wings, flying with the cranes, up on the toes. Turning the wheel. reversing. And back to the center. Lift one arm and one leg, bouncing the ball, playing with the marionette, however you picture it. And breathe in. Fundamental impermanence lesson. We can only breathe in if we breathe out, and vice versa. Healing energy in, letting go, letting go, letting go. Once more. Okay. You're invited to join us next Saturday, 10:30, I think. I just went blank. And there'll be 4 hours of meditation and moving. So join us if you can.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Sangha. When I first started here 2 years ago, it was like I would say hello, Sangha, and nobody would say anything. It's sort of like this being in an AA meeting, but much more positive. It's sort of like, hi, Avi. Okay. My name is Avi, and I'm a PIMC Sangha member. All right. And hi to everybody out there in television land. So we've got the ancient ritual of announcements that we're going to do, and first things first. So Melanie, would you care to say what you need to say?
Sit next to you.
Yes, please sit right here. Sit right here. Okay. Here, I'll give you moral support. Okay.
Hi, I'm Melanie. Hello? Yep, there we go. So most of you know that PIMC has been looking for ways to serve our community outside of our cushions. And we've called this initiative Engaging the Dharma. And so we've been meeting once a month for a bit now. Ooh, a group here, that's so cool. We were looking at all sorts of issues, but we decided to take our first venture out. And at the end of last year, we went to a homeless shelter, and we provided a meal for, I think there were probably 30-some women that day, which was an amazing experience. We got the food, we cooked the food, we took the food, we served, we ate there with the residents. It was wonderful. It was a wonderful connection. It was a wonderful experience. I think every one of us flew out of that building. It was just so rewarding. And I think it was all the way around. I mean, I think the women there as well. I mean, we got comments like, we haven't eaten like this in weeks. Or one woman told me she hadn't eaten a meal in days, period. So to be able to take our practice and actually feed people, it was powerful. So, again, we're looking at other issues as well, but we've decided to do a second offering at Jean's Place, which we're doing at the end of this month. And we need volunteers. So the date is March 31st, and that's the actual date of the meal, but of course there's lots to be done ahead of time. So we need volunteers last week. 5 have signed up. It's on the website, by the way. Engaging the Dharma is on the PIM website. You can connect there, or you can obviously connect with us here. But 5 people have signed up. We need about 10 more. And it's to do such things as our menu this time, we're expecting 60 people. That's what it should have been last time. So the meal is for 60 people. We need volunteers to do things like go out to the store, find the food, the pricing, pick up the food, prep the food, because what we did, we're going to basically do the same thing we did last time, which is what we bought made lasagnas. And so people had to cook them and take them pre-cooked to the place. We made salad, we got bread and pies and beverage. It was wonderful. And so food prep and then on-site serving and prep at the site. So those are the kinds of things we need volunteers for. So about 10 people. Anybody, I think over 18. If it's a child, I think we have to get special permission from Jean's Place.
And that includes men as well as
Yes.
women, too. There was a little uncertainty the last time.
Anybody
but
can volunteer.
Jean's Place has let us know that they welcome anyone who is an adult.
Because Jean's is strictly for women, but anybody can volunteer. If that date doesn't work, the 31st, or just this month doesn't work for you, people have lives, we definitely need donations. So if you can spare anything, there's envelopes up there. If you put your cash in that and just write Engaging the Dharma on it, it'll come directly to this. Or if you have a check, also write on that. So you can see me or either of these two lovely people. There's a meeting today right after the potluck at 1 o'clock, so you could stay or come to the potluck and just seek us out. So thank you very, very much.
And you could also donate online using the PIMC donation page, and just in one of the description fields, just put in ETD or Engaging the Dharma.
Thank you, Melanie.
Thank you, Melanie.
So tagging on to that, volunteer needs at the moment, we're doing pretty well. Thank you so many of you for stepping up to help. The sign-up tool that we're using now that's for Engaging the Dharma, we're using it for every section of volunteering. It's making it so much easier to make sure we have our needs met. So right now, Melanie, in addition to doing this initiative, she's our housekeeping team lead, and she's really needing like 2 more people who can vacuum once a month, the living room and kids area. And like we haven't had a section for someone to take the compost every week, and I've made that an assigned task. PMC doesn't have compost pickup because it's not very much that we have, but we do need somebody to take that every week. And Melanie's been doing it forever, and I'd like to relieve her of that. And so if we could get someone, yes, let's give her a hand. She does so much. Melanie is the unseen hands behind everything at PIMC. She does so much things, and I'd like to lighten her load a bit. So if you'd like to do that, it's such an easy task. We just need you to sign up for like every second Sunday. I'll make sure I take the compost, and I can get you plugged into the sign-up tool, and it makes it really easy. Other than that, we also need maybe one more person for our AV team. We're pretty strong now, but it's good to have backups because things happen. People can't always come. Thank you, Jonas, up there today. Wonderful. And then finally, Avi may have talked about this. I'm sorry, I was back doing hospitality, but the children's program, we really need help. So in addition to hiring a teacher, that's what we're trying to do right now. From here moving forward, even after we hire a teacher, we would love to have volunteers every Sunday who can do 1-hour slots. So one volunteer would go back and hang out and help the teacher during the sit, and then a different volunteer would go back during the Dharma talk. And it's the same sort of thing where if you're able and willing and wanting to give that from your heart, if you sign up for the same Sunday every month, that makes it so easy for us to know that that's taken care of. And I have all of that set up, so it's very easy to do it online, and I can help you do it. And so we've got a few people who've stepped up to do that, and that's wonderful. But especially if you're a parent and you're coming and you're benefiting and all of that, if you're able and willing to just give 1 hour once a month to support the children's program, we want all the people who want to be here to be able to be here, and that's hard when you've got little children. So thank you in advance, and for those of you who are already helping, it's wonderful. Raise your hand if you volunteer on anything. Raise your hand. Look at that. It's so many of us, right? This place is almost everything is completely done by volunteers. So I thank you very much for all your support.
Yeah, thank you both very much. So just a few more announcements of a general nature. So my name is Avi, community coordinator here, and I'm available to help you engage with this place in a deeper way, however you want. You can contact me Monday through Thursdays at the office. If you want to have more of a sense of what is going on with this place, you've got these handouts. So look at these handouts. We also have a web page where we've got posting boxes on the front of the web page. All you have to do is go to the home page and click on stuff and you can see. This is a way to become more involved in this community. Another way to become more involved is there is a sign-up sheet back there where you can give us your contact information and we can put you on our email list. And then that way we know who you are. We have a sense of you and you're on our radar, and that's part of being community too. So if you'd like to be more involved, find out more about what's going on here. There's a lot of neat stuff. There are a lot of people who really put a lot of time and thought into creating programs that really delve deeply into the Dharma and add to our lives. So make use of them. So just a few things to highlight. We have a special benefit performance coming up next Saturday in the evening. It's called Force of Nature. It is a performance piece by a woman named Carol Grubman, who is a member of this Sangha, and she is an actress and a playwright, and she has done this 1 hour monologue about the political and sociological and philosophical aspects of childbirth. And what does childbirth have to do with the Dharma? Well, everything, right? Impermanence. So in addition to having that wisdom shown to you, that helps support us because all of the money from that is going to go to PIMC, and we are casting the net far and wide. If you know of anyone, any doulas, any midwives, anyone, if you know anyone who's been born, could you have them join us? Because I think people who have been born would really appreciate this. I know that I would. We also have, as Melanie was saying, we've got the Engaging the Dharma project coming up on the 31st. We have this sign-up that the sign-up is accessible on the Engaging the Dharma page on the community website. It is also available under community in terms of volunteerism. You can get to this link and you can sign up, and there are a number of people that we need for that. And then finally, we've got our Sangha-wide meeting that is coming up on the 7th. It will be happening actually during the slot of the Dharma talk. Robert will be holding forth on sort of major changes that are happening and what the future looks like for this place. And so we hope for a strong turnout because we all care about where this place is going. So please, if you know of anyone who's not here, please plug them in so that they know. We have Dharma consultations that are available if you want a quick on-ramp to starting a practice, or if you have issues coming up with your practice. Jim, are you available today? Jim is not available today, so if you want that, contact me. I can set you up with a teacher sometime soon. And then we have other SITs. We have spiritual friends groups, and if you would like to volunteer, please see Kirsten. I always do that. It's after 2 years, I'm still doing that. Please see Kirsten. And your Dana helps keep things going here, and we appreciate whatever you can throw our way because it helps keep this place going. And then finally, at the end of this, we have our second Sunday potluck. People have reached deep into their secret archives of secret family recipes, and they have brought their casseroles for you to share. They won't tell you what the recipes are, but they will share the casseroles with you. So please join us. Even if you have brought nothing, join us. And blessings on your day. Thank you for being a part of this community.
April 13th, Volunteer Workday.
Oh.
I'm sorry, I meant to say that with my announcements. April 13th is our next all-day Volunteer Workday.
Okay, thank you. Yes. Okay.
This single sheet of paper lives over by the Dana Bowl. Dana is a word for generosity. And it says this: the Dana Bowl at PIMC. This bowl is a vehicle for the practice of dana or generosity, which can liberate you from feelings of separation and alienation. Dana is a Pali word. Pali is the language in which the oldest teachings of the Buddha have come down to us. Interestingly, it wasn't quite the language the Buddha spoke. He taught, and the teachings were passed on orally for several hundred years. He chanted whole, and there are still monks who practice in this way. They learn to chant a whole volume or two, and then they're the repository of that. They then pass it down over time. Anyway, it went from there. Ashoka, King Ashoka, the first person to ever bring India under one rule, his son and daughter went from India to Sri Lanka, taking a cutting from the Bodhi tree, the original Bodhi tree under which the Buddha sat. It went to Sri Lanka, and then it came back. The Bodhi tree in Bodh Gaya in India came via Sri Lanka. But anyway, they went there, and then the first writing was developed. They wrote on palm leaves, baby palm leaves, and they scratched on them. And then when they came back to India at that time, then it was translated into what was then Pali. So it's a marvelous story of transmission, and it's also a great story of how we have to be responsible for our own learning, because these aren't... it's not skillful to say this is the ultimate word from the Buddha, because it was passed on orally and for several hundred years. What these are exquisite teachings, and each of us really has the responsibility to take it in. Does it really make sense? Does it really work? So anyway, back to this. Dana is a Pali word that means generosity or giving freely, and has played a central role throughout Buddhism's history. The spirit of generosity guides all aspects of PIMC's vision and operations. One of PIMC's deepest aspirations is to share the Buddha's teachings with all who are interested, regardless of their ability to pay. We count on your generous support to operate our center to provide affordable rates and give financial assistance to many in our community. Whenever you're inspired to offer a donation, you join a community directly engaged in alleviating suffering and bringing greater wisdom and compassion to the world. Generosity is the first of the 10 parami, or qualities of character, that the Buddha taught his students to cultivate. The practice of generosity develops loving kindness and compassion, deepens awareness of our interconnectedness, and encourages non-attachment. Giving is said to benefit both the giver and the receiver. The giver practices sharing and letting go, and the recipient practices acceptance of what is presented. Offering a small favor, a kind thought, a meal, or funds to help sustain a meditation teacher or center is a sincere form of spiritual practice. And in reading this, I found a typo. How could a typo have gotten past the number of us that read this? PIMS is visions. Anyway, so...
Do you want to give an update on the ramp?
Actually, I did at the beginning. Yeah. A door will appear there quite soon. And also, I asked for an extra copy of the construction drawings, so as soon as I get them, they're going to go up in the pass-through, and you'll be able to look at every little... The detail is stunning that they have to put into those things. It's amazing. So there's the Dana Bowl. There's now a Dana box back there as well, if you want to do that on your way out. And even better is to go online and do an online monthly donation. That helps us with budgeting. And lastly, announcement-wise, I want to encourage you to come on February the 7th. What's happening is... April. Thank you, I knew that. Funny, I'm embarrassed. Isn't it funny? Somehow that reminds me of a limerick. There was a young lady from Blight who traveled much faster than light. She left here one day in a relative way and arrived back the previous night. So I have been in this role as guiding teacher. At first I was guiding teacher and everything. I was the only person here for several years after we bought the center. And then Kate came along, and then Avi has come along and further broadened the role. And many of you know Gregory Malouf. Gregory is coming. He's going to be starting a private practice in room 7 downstairs. It counts psychotherapy practice. And he's also going to be taking on part-time, half-time administration, which is then going to free me to do much more teaching and meeting with people. So the center, and then there's been so much growth that we're going to catch up with that a little bit. And that's what that meeting's about, that and the vision of how we're moving forward, and we really want your input as well. Okay, announcements. Water of life. Yesterday, I remembered this poem that I wrote. And actually, I think it solved several problems for me. One is, as many of you know, I've been working on a book for years, and it's really close to finished, and I've been wondering how to end it. And I think this poem and a couple of more pages and it's done. So, Robert. So there's a little history. My wife Jennifer went to college in New Orleans, and she loves it there, and she loves the jazz festival. She's been going for some years now to meet with her best friend since elementary school. And they're there a few days and have a wonderful time. But I got invited 2 years ago, and the one time I'm allowed to go. But anyway, on the way back, we were staying in a bed and breakfast, and her friend Heidi was staying in a big hotel downtown. And as we left the hotel. We left the bed and breakfast in a taxi, and then we went to the hotel, and we pulled in, and we got out, and she got her bag, and we kissed briefly and made eye contact, and then I went on to the airport. And then I had a plane transfer somewhere, and then I went back to the restroom, and on the way back to my seat, this poem emerged. It's called 33,000 Feet. People sleep, watch videos, play games on screens, and sip at wine. We hurtle west over snow-covered mountains. A chasm opened, or perhaps just revealed itself with a taxi goodbye kiss in that city now far. That moment of looking away, one plane change ago, it's always the same. Here and then not here. It's that simple. Those moments that we actually have when we can touch, hear, see, and smell one another are all we really have. The stakes are high, aren't they? Either we connect and love one another now, or not at all. People sleep, watch videos, play games on screens, and sip at wine. We hurtle west over snow-covered mountains. A chasm opened, or perhaps just revealed itself with a taxi goodbye kiss in a city now far. That moment of looking away, one plane change ago, it's always the same. Here and then not here. It's that simple. Those moments that we actually have when we can touch, hear, see, and smell one another are all we really have. the stakes are high, aren't they? Either we connect and love one another now, or not at all. Now. And so what that then connects into is that this practice is really all about love. It's taking the time to love ourselves well enough that we stop and do some simple mindfulness practice, and we use the practice for stress management. And we do the same thing, and we pay a little attention to the emotions that are coming up and the thoughts and the feelings, and we come to some ease with them, and then we're using the practice for psychological and emotional well-being. And it's really potent. I mean, as evidenced by how mindfulness is revolutionizing psychotherapy and medicine, mindfulness-based stress reduction. I was a little ahead of the curve when I came back. It's now 40 years. I came back from India, and I went around to physicians and said to them, I could teach, if you refer some people to me, I can teach them meditation, and it'll really help their stress levels. And no one was interested. In fact, they didn't understand what I was talking about. They gave me time. It was pretty impressive. But there was one doctor, a Dr. Sane, I bet he's gone now. He was Indian, and he got it. We had a lovely meeting. But the change over 40 years, that mindfulness has become a household word. In fact, many or most of the ways that it's used have nothing to do with the practice of mindfulness. Even a lot of the teaching that's done of what mindfulness is actually concentration training rather than mindfulness. But still, people benefit. And then there's this other layer, it's more than that, it's the universe. This other application, which is when we address the question, when we address the question, which is, who am I? Right? Who am I? What am I doing here? What is this? And as we were really addressing yesterday, what is this? What is life and what is death? And it's a very different question than who's winning the sport du jour, or which celebrity is currently engaged to which other one, or who has the most money or something. Those are all great distractions, but there is this question that we have, which is, who am I? Who am I? So enter the Buddha, 2,600 years ago, an ordinary human being. I mean, I like to say that to remind us of that, right? He was just an ordinary person. An ordinary person whose mother died in childbirth. He had a pretty big loss right at the beginning. Probably had some attachment wounding. He was raised by his stepmother, his aunt, actually. The king had married both sisters at the same time. So he had this initial wound, and then the story goes that he had encounters with sickness, old age, and death. And so his denial got shaken. And then he witnessed a wandering mendicant. In India still, if you wear kind of orange clothing and carry a brass bowl, and you're male, it doesn't work very well with women, People will take care of you. It's a pretty subsistence living, but people will definitely feed you, because what it symbolizes is you're devoting your life to spiritual practice. Anyway, something happened to him, and he set off on this quest, and then he, after some years, he got the answer. He figured out, who am I? And not only that, because he explored as he did, he knew how he got there. And he knew then, therefore, how to teach others. There have been people who have awakened, no doubt, as long as there's been the human brain. And, shamans, there's been wise ones. But for the most part, they haven't known how to pass it on. It's like, well, I had this experience, and now you can have it. So that's one of the great strengths of the Buddha's teachings. They're very practical. So among these teachings, there's moral and ethical behavior, there's examining our worldview and our intentions and the way we think. And then there's skillful speech and livelihood and so on. And then there's this section on meditation, which is skillful effort, the effort to bring wholesome states into being. It's a gardening metaphor. That to cultivate our garden and cultivate wholesome things like mindfulness and concentration and generosity and compassion, to rein in the unwholesome hatred, jealousy, fear. And the way this is done is through cultivation. The word bhavana in Sanskrit and Pali means to cultivate. So when you go out and you dig in your garden, you're bhavana-ing your garden. This is bhavana-ing the mind. So key among the mental states that we work to cultivate is mindfulness. And there's mindfulness on the one hand and concentration on the other. Concentration is the mind's ability to take an object and stay there. And mindfulness's capacity is utterly outrageous in a way. I mean, we take it for granted because we have it, but check this out. Please become aware of the middle finger of your right hand. And know that's what you're doing. How did you do that? Please become aware of your left ear. And know that you're paying attention, that's where you're paying attention. How do we do that? Or maybe, how about conjure up an image of your kitchen sink where you live now. And notice that as a thought. And then know that's what you're doing. Isn't that bizarre? I mean, it's so obvious, in a way, that there's something we have a capacity to do as humans, which is to know what's happening. But almost nobody ever reflects on that. We use awareness all the time, but we don't think to turn toward it. And then another step, we don't think, as the Buddha figured out, if you cultivate that. One of the nicest sounds in the world, isn't it? Children playing. Unless you're the parent of the child who screams, in which case it's like, oh God, no. So how could we cultivate this? How could we practice this? If I want to strengthen this muscle, I rotate the arm and I do this and I isolate it and I build this muscle. So what exercise could I have that would cultivate mindfulness? Mindfulness of breathing is so simple. I sit here, I have my concentration object, my sense of breathing. The breath comes and goes, and then yakety, 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 yakety. He said this, she said that, what about this? Oh, this happened to me 10 years ago, and it's not fair. And my team, I hope my team wins. But then, something happens, which is boink. awareness of the wandering mind happens. And it happens spontaneously. It's not of the person, it's not from the personality. It's the universe that's aware. So it notices, oh, wandering mind. And in that moment of wandering, in that moment of awareness, the possibility of choice arises. And that's the huge capacity, the unbelievably freeing capacity of mindfulness. So I've got Vedana, feeling, is coming up. But on the way there, no, I need to go through there first. If you want to ask the question, who and what am I? We could go off into philosophy, or we could go into direct experience. And in his explorations, the Buddha discovered that in this direct exploration, there's a variety of ways we can slice it up, but a primary one is what's called the 4 foundations of mindfulness. And if you're here long, you'll hear me talk about it a lot because it's really the foundation of this practice. Hi, Mickey. Of what are we made? No, what do we experience? The first is there's a body. It breathes. It dresses. It has toilet functions. It bathes. It walks. It's sensitive. So we pay attention to the body. We learn how to pay attention when we're driving and when we're making dinner and when we're changing the diaper. So we pay attention to the body, the heavy, dense part of us. And then the body is in interaction with the world through what we call the sense doors. We have these portholes. And one of the portholes is seeing, another is hearing, another is smelling, tasting, touching, and what's the word? How you can tell where things are. The proprioception. And then there's the mind. It's another porthole. It's another place that things happen. And we can notice that at each of these sense contacts, this gets a little theoretical for a moment, but it's very experienceable. Each sense contact has, from chemistry, it has a valence, positive, liking or disliking. Liking or disliking. So a sound happens either neutral or liking, unpleasant. It's that obvious, right? There's certain things that are pleasant and certain that are unpleasant. And most things, the vast, probably 98% of sensory experiences are neutral. We don't notice them. Like, have you noticed the middle of your back lately? Or so much is happening in the body right now, but it's the 2% or the 3% that we need to pay attention to. For instance, when we're into our hunting and gathering and protecting mode, it's that one little movement of the bushes over there that we better pay attention to, because that's where the predator's coming from. Or we get a little paper cut. We really pay attention to that because that's the danger. Or that smell of baking, they're baking bread back at camp. I have to get back there. So it's these likings and dislikings that happen at the sense doors that form what's called the 2nd foundation of mindfulness. Actually, the term is gochara, which means pasture, pastures of abiding. So we can abide in the body, or we can abide in feeling, in this pleasant, unpleasant, and indeterminate. I'm going to come back to there. Then the 3rd foundation of mindfulness is mental formations, which is all the thoughts, emotions, patterns, which the wandering mind loves to revel in. And then the 4th gochara is the phenomena. It breaks things down into, for instance, the 4 Noble Truths, or the 5 hindrances, or the 7 enlightenment factors. These are phenomena that they're actually they're as real as this, but they exist in mind. For instance, you remember sometime you were worrying, back when you used to worry? And when you're worrying, you can really notice. You could notice as clearly as you can notice this. Worry. This is worry. Or you could notice, oh, here's worry, and these are the thoughts associated with worry. Or this is worry, and these are the sensations in the body that are worry. So we can, because of this mysterious capacity we have of directed awareness, we can notice phenomena. So back to Vedana. I just changed position unconsciously. Why? My knees were hurting. Interesting. So what I could do in meditation, if my knees were hurting like that, I could then instead, let me lean forward because that's what was causing it. The padding on this chair is kind of gone. Lean forward, and so now there's a little bit of unpleasant. I could be doing mindfulness of breathing, but then I could notice, my knee's hurting. Back to the breath. And then maybe it's more, it's like, And I'm not saying necessarily I would say my knee is hurting, but I would become aware of pain. And then come back. And after 2 or 3 times, I could realize, there's something to pay attention to here. This is really interesting. So then I would put aside the breath, thank you very much, and then I'd come into the sensation in the knee, and there's this physical sensation, but then there's also the Vedana. There's the valence, I don't like this. It's wanting this to stop. There's a movement wanting to get up, to change position. And however, in this instance, since it's not a danger, I could use it for spiritual practice and just hang out with unpleasant. And it's, I just had two quick thoughts went through. One of them accompanied with some sadness, which came right here, in my eyes. Many years ago, back when we were using tapes, I spent a whole night with Ruth Dennison in the desert. She had come by somehow 2 90-minute cassettes of Achan Buddha Dasa teaching about Vedana. And we stayed up all night, till dawn actually. And she was a night owl. I would get down there in my 40s and I couldn't keep up with her. Until the very end, that was the case. She would keep going, and I'd say, "I've got to go rest," and she'd say, "Go rest, and come back when you're done." And I'd go sleep for a few hours, and she'd be there, right, crisp. Anyway, we had this rule that either one of us could push the stop button, and so we would listen to this talk all night of Achan Buddha Dasa talking about this experience. And he went on to explain that all the wars, they're all caused by Vedana. Right? I want the feeling of freedom, and therefore I want to have access to the oil that's under somebody's land. It's because I want a feeling. I want my house to be warm, therefore I want my ideology to be dominant because I believe that if my ideology were dominant, the world would be a better place. I'm driven by the feeling of wanting my ideology to be dominant. So it's the root of all our suffering. And it's very strong because we have survived, because we have strong Vedana. Anyone, if you lose feeling in your hand, what's that horrible disease? It's neuropathy, but there's a little village on Molokai, the leprosy. Right. In leprosy, you lose feeling in the extremity, and then you burn it, and you bang it, and you don't take care of it because you can't feel it. And then it gets infected, and then you have to cut it off. If we lose feeling, we're not sensitive anymore. So it's hugely important. Okay. Now, back over to this piece. The night of his awakening, the Buddha said the way he described it was what's known as the 12 steps of dependent origination. This conditions, this conditions, this conditions, this conditions, this conditions, this, there's 12 of them. And the cycle goes around and around and around. This is the way it works. So there's a history, and then there's the crucial ones are there's consciousness, and then consciousness creates a body, and then the body creates the sense doors. It's usually portrayed as a house with 6 windows. And then there's a couple in sexual embrace for feeling, or for contact. And then contact results in feeling, Vedana. And feeling is portrayed as a man with an arrow in his eye, interestingly. And then the next one, from feeling comes craving, and then comes grasping, and then comes becoming, and then birth, sickness, old age, decay, death, and so, contact. In this moment, please become aware of some place in your body where there's discomfort. It's always there, somewhere. I had not been around babies till my children were born, my son and my first child. It blew my socks off how much pain there was in infancy. Right? And actually, I've got a new grandson. I get to see him again this afternoon. Watching him go through the desperation, hunger, I've never eaten, no one ever comes to help me, and then, bliss, from one pole to the other. Minutes. So, there's some discomfort. Please notice somewhere that's maybe got some pleasure in your body right now. It's likely a quiet pleasure, but in my case, if I bring attention into my hands, there's this lovely aliveness. I've used it as a meditation object for decades. Or your equivalent of dark chocolate, or a really fine olive, or maybe a physical experience. What's a physical experience that for you is yummy? I want more of this. We all have them, of course. Even when you think of it, I'm salivating. Sheesh. It's one living system, right? So you think of that, and then desire arises. Because we're designed to seek pleasure. It's what's kept us alive. It's part of the incredible potency of sexual desire that, the way we sometimes will go crazy and blow up our lives around that desire. Well, for good reason, because DNA has its mission, which is get me passed on. And there's a whole structure, whole ways the mind works and the emotions work to quote, fall in love and to move that forward. Quite impersonal. Maybe, how do we do this? Think of a circumstance, I want it to be mild. Think of something that's happening in your life or in the world that you don't like. Notice there's an impulse to pull away from it. It's like, I don't want to think about that, or I don't want. So, back to the 12 steps of dependent origination. Because we have a mind, let's say, the mind comes into contact with sense objects, a memory, or a fear, an image of the future, or a person from the news maybe. And that the contact with that results in a feeling, pleasant or unpleasant. Do I want to think about that more? Or do I want to not think about that? Do I want to move toward the store and buy that, or do I want to not do that? And so we're constantly being barraged from outside and inside by sensory objects. And if we hook into these things at all, and if we hook into the what are called the news media, which actually, the news media are not news media. The news media are marketing devices. Their purpose, that they know, they do it intentionally, their purpose is not to inform, it is to sell. And they know very well that if we're frightened or angry, we buy. And so we tune into these things that create mental states that then we try to alleviate, and therefore we get more stuff. Or we band against one side, we go into teams and we band against each other. And so, they've learned, we've learned how to manipulate each other's feelings remarkably. So, here I am. Let's do it sitting in meditation. I'm sitting in meditation and a thought arises. I'll use a nice one. Funny, the same example comes up over many years. Back when the big tsunami happened in Southeast Asia, 170,000 people, I think, died that afternoon. Of course, central casting was hardly overdone because it deals with 150 to 170,000 people a day. But in that case, it was this big catastrophe. I was watching the news, and I've been to Thailand, and my daughter spoke Thai, and sad. And I was watching this, and the images were horrible, and a Red Cross symbol came up. You can give. And the impulse arose, I want to give. And I was giving a talk on this the next day, and I saw that arise, and I realized, oh, this is a great example, because it's bad feelings with these images, but then it's a pleasant feeling. I could give something. And so I had a choice point. What shall I do? I have this impulse to act. Is this an action I would like to... would I like to be born in my next moment as a person who gave in a circumstance like this? Yeah, that's a me that I want to contribute to feed. So pulled up my credit card and did the little dance that one does with that. And then there was this feeling of satisfaction. It's like, oh, good, I did something. On the other hand, there could be something, a circumstance, a very simple one. A circumstance is happening that the universe provides you with the input of an angry email or text. Ding! How dare they say that about me? And then the feeling is unpleasant. The craving is, I'm going to do something about that. And so I write my text, and then there's a choice. Even before that, there's a choice. Am I going to become a person? Am I going to be born as a person who someone, quote, treated badly, or that provoked an old trauma thing? Am I going to write this and then push send? Or am I going to be something saner than that and say, whew, that's a lot of reactivity. Let me see how long it takes for that to fade out of my mind. And I shape my destiny to be a person who, this has happened for me, I don't have road rage anymore. It's every now and then I can get a little provoked with just one, when it looks like it's on purpose. But mostly it doesn't even happen. There was a time, I've told this many times, my mother-in-law, bless her soul, she's long gone now, but she gave me a black leather jacket, a flight jacket. She got a great deal on it. I mean, it was hundreds of dollars, a black leather coat. And someone cut me off, some guy cut me off, on that road that comes in from I-5 North and it goes in front of the Marriott Hotel. He cut me off, and I followed him. And when he got stopped at the red light, I jumped out of my car, and I ran forward, and I was shaking my fist at him, when it suddenly occurred to me, what if he gets out of his car? Or now I would think, what if he has a gun? And I came to my senses in the middle of it. And I also thought, what would the Sunday night meditators think? It's like, if they see this guy is out of control. And that was part of the beginning. But more, it's just, road rage is self-torture. So many things that we get bent out of shape, and those, we're going to get them back. And it's filling our body full of poisonous chemicals, and it's completely self-caused. Because we haven't taken the pause and realized, oh, this is a very unpleasant incoming stimulus. What unfulfilled need do I have from this? How should I be doing that with the NVC? Is so nonviolent communication makes exquisite use of this gap between stimulus and response. So we can do this, we can practice in this way, Vedana, second foundation of mindfulness. And just as you can develop the capacity to stay with the breath, and to really, you develop the synapses that do that, and so you really become capable of abiding here with the breath. We can also become capable of mindfulness of feeling. And there's all kinds of very playful, fun things you can do. One of them that I like to do is to get a plate of food and then look from one item on the plate to the next and watch the Vedana. If there's a good olive on that plate, it's always number one. If there's an interesting looking dessert, that's on the side plate, but that's pretty high too. And then there's things like rice. I'll eat the rice if I need filling, but maybe if it's really nicely spiced, maybe. Or then there's certain salad dressings, that hollyhock dressing. So there's a hierarchy. Or you can look around a room, or you can walk through the mall and notice how there's liking, disliking, and then there's those people you don't even see, the neutral. And you can become aware of that. Who is it that I'm conditioned to not notice? Or who is it that I notice them and there's fear? And what's the judging mind doing? And how pleasant or unpleasant is the judging mind? So Vedana it's a gochara, it's a pasture of abiding. And you can make great use of it. And then what that allows is choice, the beginnings of choice in what mental states, emotions, and actions you actually pursue. And can you sense how huge that is? It's what Carl Jung said, the unexamined life isn't worth living. That if you don't examine your life, you live out of fate. Because we go around this cycle and we react like our parents did. Or we react as we've been conditioned to by our trauma. Or there's this consciousness, mindfulness, this miracle comes in, and we realize, that's the way I'd like to act. This is my impulse, but that's not the kind of person I want to be. I want to be a person who acts more kindly or lovingly or generously or I spoke of this yesterday too. This is 38 years ago. I was with Ruth Dennison at Brighton Bush, my baby in my arms. And I guess he wasn't in my arms at this particular point. It was a Stephen Levine workshop. And one of the death and dying, and people with really heavy stuff came to Stephen's retreats. And in this one, it was a woman whose 6-year-old daughter had been abducted, raped, and killed. And the woman told this story, and it got our attention, right? And then she was sobbing, and it was my habit at that point that I would cry along with her because it was sad and it touched my sadness. And I knew how to do that, and I was just really crying deeply, and after a little while I felt very refreshed. But Ruth Dennison was in the room. And afterwards, that evening, she came to me and said, "What were you doing in there?" And I said, "Oh, I was crying." And she said, "Oh, I see. Well, why?" And, "Well, it was so sad." And then I thought, why is she asking that? And I said, "Well, what else could I have done?" And she said, "You looked so comfortable doing that." So, phenomenon, external impulse, inner response, sadness, lump. I was habituated that what I do in these circumstances is I cry. And I said, "Well, what else might I do?" And she said, "Well, the next time that opportunity to go into that state arises, don't. Just stay awake." Opportunity came up the next day, impulse, and I didn't. What happened? Compassion. Instead of I'm having an emotion, it was, oh, this woman is really suffering, and I can be here and conscious and contain this experience. I'd probably still be doing that if I hadn't had that beautiful intervention from Ruth. So she reminded me, observe the pleasant, unpleasant, observe the emotion as well, and then make a choice. And so this is something that we practice. When you have a bite of your favorite food, pause and notice the veil. This is pleasant. Or you take a peanut out of the bunch and it's one of those bad peanuts and it tastes bad. Pause. This is an unpleasant flavor. I want this out of me. Or you get a congratulatory or flattering or pleasing email and you notice, this is pleasant. This is the impact. This is what someone supporting my view does, or someone supporting my... Anyway, I think you get the point. Because they're in the chute. So thank you for listening. I wish we had a long time and we could discuss and so on, but that's the essence of Vedana. And it's the incredibly useful second foundation of mindfulness. Please do join us afterwards for potluck, and also make a big circle now so that we can do a closing ceremony. Yeah, you get it? Great. You can use this. Everyone, I was talking about these two people here. I think we all have that. Oh, who's teaching next week? Do you remember? Avi? Yes. Where? Who's teaching? Who's in the Dharma seat next week? Because I am away. Do you remember? I think it's Gary. Oh, Gary, good. And then the week after that? Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to be away the next 2 weekends. Hi. I just noticed your wild hair. Mine's like that too. May I hold your hand? Thank you. You could hold hands over there too with Tia, with the other hand if you want. There you go. Hi, you want to hold our hand? We could all three of us hold hands. Yay. Are you related? Yeah. How do you?
He's my dad.
Oh, I see. That makes sense. Is he? Yeah, he's a nice dad, I think. Yeah, I thought so. All right, so either we love each other right now or not at all. because this is the moment of life. So why not give that hand on your right a little squeeze and wish this person well? Which one could say, stimulate the synapses in your own brain that have to do with loving. So you benefit too. And give the hand on your left a little squeeze.
Is this torch?
Is this what? Church. Sort of. Yeah, kind of. And give this hand a little squeeze. And give your tiger a squeeze as well if you have a tiger. Very good. And so let's extend these thoughts of love to everybody in the houses around us, all over the city, everywhere on this planet where there are humans and our brothers and sisters and friends and relations of the sky, the earth, and the water, to the whales,
I want a toy.
to the children especially. May all beings everywhere share in the merits of our practice. Thank you to those of you that are joining us from online. And now would someone pass me the microphone? I forgot it. Thank you. Do we have young people to sing? I think it's you. All right. You want a little help?
May all beings be happy. May all beings be happy. May all beings be happy. Sadhu, sadhu,
Sadhu. Thank you.
I want a toy.
How about next week? Okay. All right. So, not yet. Not yet. Think of your greatest, most generous wish you could have for the world. And then, not yet, we're going to count. Everybody at home gets to breathe in too. 1, 2, 3, blow. Blow, 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 yay! Woo! That and no one even caught fire. So thanks for being here. Enjoy Vedana. See you soon.
I want it to blow.